Hello, podcast fam. I am thrilled to share some exciting news. My book, Sow, Grow, Lead, is officially live on Amazon. This book is more than just my story of starting a nonprofit and building a peanut butter factory in Malawi. So trust me, the ups and downs of that journey are worth the read. It's also packed with practical strategies to help nonprofit leaders like you tackle challenges with clarity, courage, and a whole lot of heart. If you've ever wondered how to turn your vision into reality, navigate the inevitable hurdles, and build something meaningful, whether in your organization or in your own life, this book is for you. I'd be so grateful for your support in spreading the word. Grab your copy of Sow, Grow, Lead in the show notes and on Amazon today. Let's keep sowing seeds of impact together. Welcome to the Lead with Heart podcast, which is dedicated to nonprofit leaders who are passionate about making a difference. I'm your host, Haley Cooper, and I'm thrilled to have you join us on a journey of growth, inspiration, and transformation. At Lead with Heart, we believe that leading with heart means embracing empathy, compassion, and authenticity in every aspect of our work. It's about putting people first, fostering genuine connections, and creating a positive impact that goes beyond numbers and metrics. In the nonprofit world, it can often feel like we're carrying the weight of the world on our shoulders. The challenges are immense and the road can be lonely. But here, you're not alone. This podcast is a community where we support each other, share our stories, and learn together. Each episode will dive into personal and professional development topics tailored specifically for nonprofit leaders. From innovative fundraising strategies and effective team management to self-care practices and leadership insights, we're here to provide you with practical strategies that you can apply to your life and work. My goal is to empower you, elevate your leadership, and engage your heart in all that you do. I want to help you navigate the unique challenges of the nonprofit sector with confidence and resilience, so you can continue to create meaningful change in the world. So whether you're driving to a meeting, taking a break, or winding down for the day, tune in and join us on this journey. Together we'll discover what it truly means to lead with heart. Thank you for being here. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Lead with Heart podcast. This is your host, Haley Cooper, and I am so excited today because I am joined by Laura Bonnell, the founder of the Bonnell Foundation and host of the Living with Cystic Fibrosis podcast. Laura's journey into advocacy began when her mother's instincts clashed with initial medical skepticism, ultimately leading to a life-changing diagnosis for her daughter, Molly, with cystic fibrosis. Fueled by a passion to help her daughter and others with CF, Laura shifted from a journalism career to nonprofit leadership, combining her storytelling skills and commitment to advocacy. Now she's raising awareness, supporting families, and working with legislators to drive meaningful change for those living with CF. Well, let's dive into Laura's story of resilience, purpose, and the power of advocacy. Welcome to the podcast, Laura.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
So, Laura, you trusted your instincts as a mother myself. I know that mother intuition. But when it came to your daughter's diagnosis, can you take us back to that moment and share how you turned this challenging experience into a mission-driven career?
Yeah, and I think you would agree that this isn't a rare occurrence. I think parents, mothers are dismissed a lot when they think something medically maybe aren't exactly listened to at first, but it did empower me because the pediatrician told me I was a first-time mom, I should go back to work. And, she thought it was actually kind of funny that I would think that my child had CF. And we are dear friends now. She's learned a lot and she is very supportive of cystic fibrosis. But what happened was Molly was having many cystic fibrosis symptoms. And my husband and I were like, wasn't there a public service announcement about cystic fibrosis? They taste salty and they have all these other issues. And I shared them with the doctor and she's like, oh, that's crazy. And I'm like, I waited another month and then I she was shaking when she was eating because she was starving, because when you have cystic fibrosis, you need to take enzymes to digest your food because of the thick, sticky mucus that's in their body because of the cystic fibrosis. She couldn't digest food. So I was like, my child is starving. Many times, not in Molly's case, but in many cases, they're diagnosed with failure to thrive and get misdiagnosed like starving your child. So when I said she is shaking when she's eating, like she is not getting all the food she needs, I need her to be tested this week for cystic fibrosis. And so they agreed to do that. And then I was on a breaking news story and the doctor called me and said, pull over. And I'm like, just tell me, I know she has CF. And I did pull over and she did tell me, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. She has CF. And she's really never stopped apologizing, but she learned a lot. And yeah, it just empowered me because of my natural instinct to get answers as a reporter. I just thought there had to be other parents out there. And I also wanted to be able to support others as well that were in the same situation.
Yeah, I think that's so beautiful. And yes, as a mother myself, I can relate in terms of wanting to find the answers and fighting and advocating for your child when it seems a little bit hopeless or there's not really that support or there's skepticism, but you're able to grapple with that and fight for your kid. And I think that's so beautiful and honorable. And you're so strong and courageous for not accepting no as an answer.
Thank you. Yeah, it was really important. And I would say, not statistically, because I haven't done any research on this, but I bet that 99% of the parents figure out their kid's diagnosis or help doctors. It's not like someone else is telling a parent what the situation is, because you're living with that child 24/7, you see everything.
Yeah, that makes sense. So for people who don't know, can you describe what cystic fibrosis is?
Yes, it is a genetic disease that causes chronic and fatal lung infections, and it interferes with digestion and every organ. A lot of people think about it as that lung disease, and there was the movie 6 Feet Apart about cystic fibrosis, but it does interfere with every organ. You can get diabetes. It impacts your pancreas, your liver, your colon, everything, because that thick, sticky mucus interferes and it's an interruption of sweat chloride. The life expectancy when my daughters were born 29 and 27 years ago was 19 years old, and they've surpassed that, thank God. But children born today, their life expectancy is 56, which still is not old enough. But there's new medications out there, which is great.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing that they are still thriving today.
Yeah.
And the work that you've done to help support other families with cystic fibrosis. So can you talk a little bit more about those early days of starting the nonprofit?
Yeah. I think the first week or the first couple of weeks Molly was born, I thought I have to start a nonprofit to help other parents. But it's so overwhelming to have a new diagnosis. And I was speaking at other events right after Molly was diagnosed because I had such a high profile in the media at that time in Detroit. And so it was important to speak out about it and raise awareness. And I really didn't have time until 2010 to start the foundation. And then I was doing it part-time after my full-time job. And I was working morning drive. And so I was at the station at 4 a.m. and then home by 1. And it was a long day, and then working on the foundation. So just before the pandemic, ironically, I decided that it would be a great time to go full-time working on my foundation. So in 2019, I did that. But all this time, since 2010, we've been giving money for financial assistance to CF families. And since 2019, the growth has been enormous. So now we have a financial assistance program, a lung transplant program, an education scholarship program, and many other programs I can tell you about as well.
Yeah, I would love to know, how you come alongside these families and support them. What are some of the barriers or challenges that they face once they receive the diagnosis?
Well, I think, as you would know, that it's just there's so much emotionally going on. Can I have more children? what do I do from here? What's it going to cost me? Is my insurance going to cover it? So we recently started a mentoring program because you don't know if you should send your child to daycare when they're young, or if they're diagnosed later, you've got a lot of catching up to do. Even though your child may be in their 20s when they're diagnosed, it's like infancy as far as the diagnosis stage. So we have to help get parents up to speed. And I just talked to a 40-year-old mom who found out in vitro that when she was 5 months pregnant, that her daughter had CF. And I just had to say, you just have to enjoy your pregnancy and breathe. And we're here for as much information at a time as you can handle. So I think it's starting that way with deciding how much information to give somebody and how to direct them along the way.
Imagine a fundraising partner that not only helps you raise more money, but also supports you in retaining your donors. A partner that helps you raise funds both online and on location so you can grow your impact faster. That's DonorBox, a comprehensive suite of tools, services, and resources that give fundraisers just like you a custom solution to tackle your unique challenges, helping you achieve the growth and sustainability your organization needs, helping you help others. Visit donorbox.org to learn more. Yeah, I love that. And it's like on them to decide how they want to process a diagnosis like that. And then you're coming alongside and empowering them where they're at. You mentioned, obviously, you have all of these programs. And I'm a fundraiser, so obviously it comes with a cost of providing lung transplants or funds for lung transplants, funds for education. What does your funding model look like?
It's so funny. I would be interested in what you think, but the fundraising part is so obviously needed, but not the fun part for me. I don't like asking people for money, but it's obviously, we couldn't function without it. So for me, it's about relationships. I'm friends with everybody that has donated. I have so much respect for them and continue those relationships. So it's a relationship with people in pharma. It's relationships with local businesses. It's relationships that we have with friends and family. And even if somebody can't donate, or they're like, oh, my pharmaceutical company can't donate this year. Okay, I still want you to come to the event. I still appreciate your help. So it's a combination of everything. We have one big fundraiser. Prior to the pandemic, we had a celebrity baseball game. We had so many things, purchase of cystic fibrosis calendars, and that kind of went by the wayside during the pandemic because we couldn't gather, but we're going to start that up again as well. We just so many fundraising things, and we have merchandise and all of that stuff as well. But for me, it's constantly being in touch with the donors year round.
Oh, you're speaking my love language. Look, you're doing fundraising great. And obviously, part of that also comes storytelling, and you've leveraged your background as a journalist to raise awareness and build the foundation. How has this experience helped shape your approach to advocacy for CF?
And it's funny that you say that or ask that, because all my life I've told everyone else's story. And then I had this story to tell. And I always thought news reporting, I wanted to be a news reporter since I was 12. And at 12, I thought I could do it better than anybody else. And I don't know why I was so cocky about that, but that's what I thought. And so I had this story to tell about myself. And I thought, oh my gosh, who wants to hear my story? And then I had to say, well, of course people want to hear, because you can help others. And that's the best gift, is that when you tell your story, you connect with so many other people. So sharing my story has connected me to people all over the world. And it's wonderful. And then you hear it triggers something in someone else, and they want to share something with you. So it's just this beautiful connection, whether it's the written word or the blog or the videos that we do, or a story that I'm able to share about a family in Egypt that is having a hard time getting medication, or the dad I talked to in, I think it was Istanbul, who lost 2 of his 3 children to cystic fibrosis. No, it was India. So it's just so many touching stories, mine or theirs. It's really important.
Yeah, I think a lot of us grapple with that, right? Like we can tell stories of other people all day long, and then it comes to us. And I think a lot of people ask that question, but I think this is just an empowering moment to tell people, like, you do have a story to tell, and other people will care to listen. And I think through that vulnerability, there's that connection where people feel a little bit less alone, or can understand the impact of whatever the mission is set out to deliver. So when it comes to storytelling from a journalist's perspective, what are some of the key components or like things that you have in mind every time you deliver a story?
Well, I think it's always in cystic fibrosis or in anyone's story, I start with the diagnosis story because it tells a lot about the person and how their struggle started and how the diagnosis happened and where they went from that situation. And I've also found so many similarities in everyone's diagnosis story, getting people to believe them or helping their child. And really that goes across all diseases. It doesn't matter if it's CF or if it's cancer or whatever, hemophilia, whatever disease it is. I think it's just connecting. Everybody can relate to their diagnosis story. So that's one of the ways that we start. And also talking about the caregiver's mental health and their journey and how this diagnosis impacted them, because I think that almost all of us think, oh, yeah, you're going to get married, you're going to have kids, and they're going to be healthy, and it's going to be wonderful, and it's going to be so great. And in addition to all the other stress that comes with just having kids, then you just roll in this disease with all of the doctor visits and the equipment and the medications and the cost. You can get buried in that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's a lot. Yeah.
So I know that there are nonprofits out there, and I've worked for ones where it's a vulnerable population. You want to maintain the confidentiality and dignity. And also there are some laws that keep you from sharing people's stories. And that deters a lot of people from wanting to do the storytelling aspect. Rightfully so. But how have you navigated some of those challenges when it comes to such a vulnerable population? And obviously there's HIPAA laws and things like that you can only share so much about the diagnosis, but you also have to raise awareness for your organization and those that are experiencing it. So how have you navigated some of those challenges?
Well, one of the real simple things is when we announce our education scholarships, we don't use their last name. We'll just use an initial, which I have found that actually everyone doesn't do that. A lot of people share last names. We didn't, just because on social media, you can find that person in a second.
Yeah.
And we just chose not to do that. And then the people that we help with financial assistance, everybody that gets financial assistance, we ask them to do a 30-second video about how we've helped them. And it's not required, but we also know sometimes people don't want to be on video because they don't want to know that we have helped them. They don't want other people to know. So if they don't want to, they don't have to. But this helps when you're fundraising, right? It's the storytelling. It's the importance that people know how important this money was for them and telling their story. So the people that do tell their story, it brings people to tears sometimes. It really impacts others. And as the people that we help find out, it helps them. They feel like they were heard, and they are so excited to have shared their story. And then they meet other people, or people reach out to them, and they get so much more love back. You don't have to share someone's last name. Like, I could tell you so many stories. I can tell you about people who've reached out to me from Ireland And I don't have to share their last names. I don't even have to share their first names, but I can tell you the situation, and it's really important. We have what's called a CF Masterclass and a CF Global Masterclass, and these people have agreed to share their last names. And so we have 12 stories from CF parents in the U.S., both men and women, who talk about their challenges, how they deal with faith, how they deal with the loss of a child, or why they decided to only have one child with CF instead of risking having more, all kinds of stories. And then I reached out to parents in Egypt and in Jordan and Thailand and Ireland and Canada, etc. And they have the same fears, but they have different challenges. Some of them can't even get liquid vitamins for infants. Some of them can't get regular vitamins. Some can't get medications. Some can't get basic enzymes. If you have cystic fibrosis and you have the digestive issue, which most people with CF do, you can't digest your food. So you have to take enzymes with every meal. And this particular family in Egypt, the twin boys, the dad, gives them enzymes every other day because they don't have enough enzymes to sustain them daily. So that's what those stories tell people. And I think years ago, myself included, I wasn't aware that all of these challenges were being faced by other people with CF. You just thought everyone in the world would have access, but they do not. So that's a big eye-opening thing for CF families in the U.S. and just for anyone in general. There's so much work to do, and where you live shouldn't matter. So those stories are very important to tell. And I think people appreciate seeing the stories. And I think it's something we need to continue to do on even a much higher level than I'm doing right now.
Yeah. And I think that's so important. And it just like paints the reality of what these people are going through. When I did work in Malawi, so many medical shortages and getting people the medicine that they needed. And it was just sad to see. It should have been a simple solution, but obviously it's a lot more complex. And there were kids' lives on the lines because there wasn't that access to medical care. The parent would try to get it, but there was just nowhere to be found. And I think as a parent, like that just grounds you, right? You're like, how could that be?
Exactly. It's just so sad. And even access to care in the United States is not equal. People of color are underdiagnosed in cystic fibrosis, and not every pediatrician knows that. And that shouldn't be. So there's a lot of educating to do.
Yeah, I definitely agree. There's a lot of educating, and there's also a lot of advocacy. I think that goes into it. And in many ways, you are a trailblazer for nonprofit advocacy. So what advice would you give to nonprofit leaders about adopting this advocacy mindset to create impactful and sustainable growth?
I think advocacy, both for your child and for legislation, is really important. And I encourage you to even talk to your specialty doctors about your expectation that they get involved. I know doctors are very busy, but they have a staff and they have social workers who can keep them up to date. And the foundation that goes with your disease can help. I tell doctors all the time, if you don't have the time, I have the information, I'll let you know. And I just sent out an email today to my advisory council and said, hey, I just want you to know about this rare disease advisory council we're trying to pass in Michigan. And that gives a voice to doctors, nurses, patients, and nonprofits. And it's bipartisan. So it's really important to know. And there's so many organizations that can break it down for patients about what's going on, so you can access the information in a simpler form, so it's easier for you to understand. But it's really important because there are 30 million people in the U.S. with a rare disease, and that's anything under 200,000 patients. So it impacts so many people. There's 40,000 people in the U.S. that have cystic fibrosis, but of those 40,000, or not of those 40,000, but in the US, there are 10 million carriers. So everybody is impacted, I think, in one way or another. So it's really important to get involved. And I always tell people, you don't have to go meet with your governor. You don't have to go meet with your senator or your representative. Maybe you're just shooting an email over to that senator. Maybe you're writing a letter. Maybe you're just going to a city council meeting to say, hey, I just wanted to make you aware of this. It doesn't have to be so huge that it's overwhelming. It can be at whatever pace or place you're at. And I promise you, it always makes you feel better. You feel involved, you feel engaged. You're going to meet somebody who is going to inspire you, or you inspire them, or you help them. It's always a win. I've never experienced getting involved as a negative ever.
Yeah, I think nonprofit advocacy tends to be kind of like a taboo subject in nonprofits because a lot of people don't, I mean, obviously there's like certain like legal rights, but I think it is such an important piece to understand and to be able to advocate on behalf of your organization. So can you share a little bit more about if you're sending an email to the senator, like what are you saying in that email to gain their awareness of what you're doing? Maybe it's locally or maybe it is statewide or internationally. What are you saying to these people to garner their awareness to get involved?
Well, I think it's what you were talking about earlier. It's always about telling your story. And it's the name of your podcast, Lead with the Heart. It's always about leading with that. What's your love? This is about your child, or it's about yourself. So bare your heart, bare your concerns, lead with that. That's what's going to get to them. They get so many blah, blah, blah emails that if they read them, they're not inspired. They're not moved to action, but they get a letter from you that says, my heart is breaking because I can't help my child. I need your help to help my child. Or whatever your story is, that's something that's going to move them. And I would even say probably mailing a letter is better than email. When I write letters to legislators, I always seem to get one back, more so than emailing, because they're getting tons of emails now. Emails are easy. You just, blah, 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 blah. You just like vomit up everything you want to say, right? And get it to that person. But if you email them, and then I always follow up. If I do send a letter, I follow up with the aide and say, did the senator get the letter? I sent the letter. You know, you just have to make a connection because, again, that's what it's all about. If you think you're just going to think about it, or you're just going to send an email and why didn't you hear back from them? And, you know, you've got to work. You've got work to do. This isn't just shooting one email and expecting results. You have to be engaged. And then the local level is the way to go too, because our local officials know our federal officials. The state senator knows the U.S. senator. They all know each other. So it's really important to be positive, respectful, good. Everybody talks to everybody. So it's really important. And even if you reach out to a state senator and a U.S. senator, you might say to your U.S. senator, I just want you to know I did contact my state senator and vice versa. So, you know, you're not trying to like diss anybody or exclude anyone. You want them to know, yeah, I reached out to them as well. Or even though it's a local level, I just want you to know this might become a federal issue. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I love that advice. Thank you so much for breaking that down. And it seems like you also involve your children in this advocacy work. So how has involving your children in your work influenced your approach and ultimately benefited the broader CF community?
I think with my girls, it's when they're ready. They're not always ready. I don't push them. It's just I'll say, hey, do you want to do this? Nope. No, thanks. And you just got to respect that, because they used to say to me, I can't think about CF, which is cystic fibrosis. I can't think about CF every day. So you have to respect that. But then when they're ready, oh my gosh, I have so many examples about their strength and really taking charge of their care where it made a difference. They have both spoken to doctors and groups and spoke from the heart about either how they're treated or how the care needs to change, or talking to insurance people about things that need to change. So that's really, it's been kind of growth for them as well over the years. And I think that's true for everyone. You kind of learn how to keep going in advocacy. It's really important. And they've educated doctors. So I'm really proud of them.
Yeah, that's beautiful. What it's like 6 weeks away from 2025. I can't believe it. We're in the middle of November.
Right.
And as you look on to this next year or few years, what are you really excited about that the foundation is going to achieve or is setting out to achieve?
Well, I think we're just growing our programs, which is really important. We'll be giving out even more money in 2025 for our financial assistance program. Our mentoring program is growing. All of our programs are growing. So that's really exciting. And I think that this CF Masterclass, the growth in that. We're also doing public service announcements again. They haven't had cystic fibrosis public service announcements in about 29 years here in Michigan. So we're going to be doing that to raise awareness about CF and raising awareness about who can be born with this genetic disease, which is everyone. And just continuing all of that, we also have a Portraits of Cystic Fibrosis calendar that features people, and it's really inspiring. So I think that's really important. And then getting information out there and continuing advocacy continues to be the goal, because everyone's voices need to be heard.
So beautiful. I love those goals for the foundation. If people want to learn more about you and the work that you do to help you embark on these goals of raising more awareness, where can they find you?
They can find us at the BonnellFoundation.org or the Bonnell Foundation at gmail.com, where they can email us. And Bonnell is B as in boy, ONNELL. And yeah, we would love to hear from people.
Well, we will make sure to link that all in the show notes and on our social media posts. So please go look it up if you're listening to this episode. And thank you so much, Laura, for your courageousness and your bravery to share this story and to share your story with the world.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to talk to you. I love what you're doing. I really appreciate it. And thanks for sharing our story.
If you have valued these stories or learned something from what you've heard, please share this podcast episode or follow me on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for your support, and together we can build a better community and world.